Hello friends and welcome back to the show. In this episode, I'll show you how to make the softest dinner rolls ever. This recipe is quite similar to the Japanese milk bread I made. You can check it out if you click the link in top right corner. This bread is made using a roux called a Tangzhong, and that is what gives it that super light and fluffy texture. And this dough is quite versatile. You can use it for dinner rolls, burger buns, hot dog buns, or you can shape it into one large loaf. In any case, you'll find all the details down in the description box. So let's see what equipment we need this time. A bowl, scales, a dough scraper, you'll need a temperature probe, you'll also need a brush, a baking tin, and a little pot with a spatula or whisk, but a spatula will work better. Now when it comes to the ingredients, you'll need some strong white bread flour, some milk, sugar, yeast, salt, some soft butter, some milk powder, this is optional, but it does give a nice flavor, an egg, and a little bit of sesame seeds. So now the first thing we need to do is make the roux or the Tangzhong. To do that, we'll take a portion of the total flour and a portion of the total milk and we'll cook it in a pot. You want to cook it on a medium to low heat. Keep an eye on it, keep stirring it. It'll take no more than 5 minutes. Make sure there's no lumps, just keep stirring it the whole time. And once it's nice and thick, cook it for another minute or so. And it's as simple as that. That's your roux done, or Tangzhong in Japanese. Now scrape it all into a bowl. Make sure you get as much as you can out of the pot, because at the end of the day, this is part of the whole recipe. The more you leave in the pot, the more flour and milk you are losing, and the more you'll be altering the final recipe. So scrape it all out and cover it with cling film. Make sure to press it on tight. You don't want to leave any air pockets. Make sure it's touching all over. If you leave any air pockets, they might dry out and be harder to incorporate into the final dough. Now refrigerate it until cold and only then start making the dough. Now add your milk to the bowl, add your yeast, salt and sugar, and then continue on with the milk powder, the Tangzhong and the butter, and then give it all a good mix. I'm using cold milk by the way, because my kitchen is quite warm. And if you want to learn more about controlling dough temperature, click the link in top right corner. While sometimes overlooked, temperature is one of the most important ingredients in bread baking. And speaking of ingredients, the last one to go in is the flour. Now grab your scraper and give the dough a good mix in the bowl. This dough is a bit weird because it will feel like biscuit dough at first, quite crumbly, but just keep kneading it by hand and it will come together. And to avoid making a mess, do it in a bowl until you have a cohesive dough, then tip it out on your work surface and start kneading it. Now this dough is quite dry, so I'm using a regular kneading method. I press down and forwards with the heel of my right hand, then using the fingers of my left hand I fold the piece of dough under the heel of my right hand, then turn and repeat. And once you've done this a few times, it will become a fluent motion. And all in all, this process should not take more than 5 to 7 minutes. And once you have a nice smooth dough, start fermenting it. Get it in a bowl. Make sure to always take the temperature of the dough after mixing. 25 to 26 degrees Celsius what we're after. If your dough is colder, proof it for longer. If it's warmer, proof it for less time. But 1.5 to 2 hours should do it. It should definitely almost double in size by the time it's finished. And after the bulk fermentation, we can divide it into individual buns. You have to use your scales for this because it's very hard to eyeball it. So weigh your dough, divide it in 12, and that's your bun. As you would have noticed, I'm not using any flour. This dough is not sticky at all. Matter of fact, if you were to use flour, it would make your job a lot harder. So just divide your dough into 12 equal pieces by weight, and once it's all divided, we can shape it. And we'll shape these buns twice. This is called a pre-shaping stage. Because the dough is made up of many little pieces by now, we want to make it nice and even. So press it out, fold the piece of dough over the middle, going around the circle until you reach the point where you started. Then flip it smooth side up again, tighten it against the table, and that's your pre-shaped bun. And then repeat 11 more times. While it may seem like a lot, this is a very quick process. And you'll get your shaping practice in. And our buns are taking shape. I can already see the end result. Now after the pre-shaping, we need to relax the dough, so we'll cover it up and we'll let it rest for at least 15 minutes or so. During this time the gluten will relax and it will make it a lot easier for us to shape the buns. And final shaping move is just the same as the pre-shaping. Flatten the dough out, fold the edge over the middle, going around in a circle until you reach the point where you started. You have a nice tight ball, then flip it smooth side up again, tighten it against the table, and now you're done. And that's how you shape any bun. A tiny one like this, or a huge loaf of bread. And if you mess one up, you still have 11 to practice on. Now, I quite like sesame, so this next move, I mean it's optional, but I really like to do this, to get the sesame seeds all over. Now, pick up your bun and dip the bottom of it in the sesame seeds, only then place it on the tray. This is quite a cool little trick to do. It should prevent the buns from sticking to the tray, and also it will help you get seeds all over. And it doesn't have to be sesame seeds necessarily, you can use any seeds you like. Or you can use different seeds on the bottom and different ones on top. It's up to you. But once they're all shaped and on the tray, make sure the gaps between them are equal, then cover them up and let them ferment for 1 hour. During this time, preheat your oven to 160°C with a fan on and watch these babies rise. They should at least double in size. And they are puffed up nicely. Now there's one more step we need to take before baking. We need to glaze them. To make the glaze, I took the yolk of the egg and whisked it with 1 teaspoon of milk. And then just brush them all over. And after the first brushing, what I like to do is let the buns dry out for 5 minutes and then brush them again, so you get a double layer of glaze on them. Just be aware that the glaze might make the buns stick to the tray a little bit, so you wouldn't go wrong using a little bit of parchment paper underneath. In any case, once they're glazed all over, sprinkle them with sesame seeds on top as well. And don't be shy with the amount, just sprinkle them all over. And as a final touch, press the sesame seeds into the buns. This should really make them stick. Now get them in the oven, bake them. They should not take more than 20 to 25 minutes or so. And that's your super soft dinner rolls. Nice, right? Quite easy to make too. Now this next step is optional, but I do like to brush them with molten butter all over. You'll get a beautiful buttery flavor and a nice sheen. As always, if you have any questions or suggestions, drop them down in comments. And if you haven't already, consider subscribing. I make bread baking videos every Wednesday and Sunday. And I don't only have recipes, I also teach bread baking principles. So if you're into your baking, check it out. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.